All right. So now we'll be moving into talking about basketball. So the Husky basketball team started a couple weeks ago. To start off, just giving a little review preview of this team. So the men's Husky basketball team was originally picked to finish ninth in the Pac-12 this year, and that's kind of based off of the losses they suffered to players leaving. The key losses they really had would be Jaden McDaniels and Isaiah Stewart. Both of those two players were kind of the leaders on the team last year, and both of them left after their freshman season and ended up being drafted in the NBA draft in the first round. They both went. And then another loss they had was Nas Carter, who was a key contributor last year. He ended up leaving the team due to an off the court incident that he was involved in. And then also just mentioning senior Sam Timmons, their center from last year, who was a role player for him. He graduated, so he's no longer on the team. And getting into kind of players who replace these guys, overall, the Huskies did not do a very well of recruiting last year. They actually had zero freshmen sign with the team as scholarship players. So they had two people transfer to them. So those were their two new scholarship players, really. And the one was Cole Bahima. He transferred from Michigan. And then Eric Stevenson transferred from Wichita State. So those are kind of the two new key players for the Huskies, and they're not really performing as well as Husky coaches and Husky fans would like. Stevenson's he's playing 20 minutes a game while only averaging 5 points per game. Bahima kind of off the bench role, minimal time, only 10 minutes per game, and averaging only 1 point per game so far through 7 games. So overall, they really haven't produced much for this team. Stevenson was projected to produce a lot more. Last year at Wichita State, he averaged 24 minutes a game while scoring 11 points per game. So this is a big drop off for him, averaging half as many points so far throughout the season. And understandably, with that, the Huskies have struggled in just about every game they've played in, besides, of course, their lone win against Seattle University. So the other games, they haven't won. They're 1-6 overall. They have losses to UC Riverside and Montana, which, being honest, those are teams that the Huskies should beat. I mean, the Huskies are a mainstream team. They're a big name school, and they should be beating these UC Riverside and Montana type schools, yet they're not. They do, however, have a few lone bright spots, this Husky team, mainly Quade Green, who he's been playing excellently. I'm a big fan of him. I think if he can develop a bit more, he can be really special and kind of make an impact on an NBA team in the coming years. Another player who's kind of been a pleasant surprise would have to be Riley Soren, who's a center on the team. He's played minimal minutes. He's been working on his conditioning, which is one of the reasons he hadn't played in the seasons past. Looking at Green again, he's been an integral part. He was an integral part last season, unlike Soren, who didn't play last year. Green, however, only played 15 games last year due to being academically ineligible at the end of the year. So that was a big loss for the Huskies, as they were never able to actually kind of replace his production at the point guard position and replace his ability to create opportunities for others and run the Husky offense. So Green's suspension last year ultimately ended this team's hopes early. And now with Green back, albeit without Isaiah Stewart and Jaden McDaniels, he's showing how good he can be as a player. I mean, he's currently leading the team in both points and assists, averaging 14.4 points per game, well, 3 assists per game. And quite frankly, Green's really been the only player who's actually able to create his own shot and make plays for other players. Riley Soren, on the other hand, he barely played last year, showed up in a couple of games. Soren's biggest asset, I guess you could say, is his size. I mean, he is huge. He's 7'4" tall. He weighs 270 pounds. So being out on the court, he's really a mismatch every time he's out there at the 5 position. Because I don't think there's really going to be ever a time someone's bigger than him on that floor with him standing at 7'4". And on the year, isn't averaging a lot of points because he hasn't played a lot of minutes. He's averaging 6 points per game, 4 rebounds, but he's shooting very high, 76%, because really all his shots are in the interior, a lot of them dunks. In the first game of the year, he only played 3 minutes. He finished with 2 points, but his best games have been the last 2 games against Colorado and Montana, both unfortunately losses. But in those 2 games, Riley Soren combined for 11 for 12 shooting, had a combined 26 points, 12 boards, 2 blocks in those 2 games. And he played in those 2 games 29 combined minutes, playing 19 minutes against Colorado and then 10 minutes against Montana. So that's kind of been the issue with Soren, has been conditioning throughout his career here at UW. He hasn't been able to get his minutes up, and he's been working on that, and he's a lot better than he has in the past season, and that's why he's been playing more minutes. But then again, he's played in 10 or less minutes in 4 of the 6 games so far. So hopefully he can get more conditioning and just continue working on that. Because if he can get in that game shape, stay on the court, then Soren could become very dangerous because just how big he is. No team can really guard him. So looking at this Husky basketball team overall, and what's really wrong with it is that they can't really do anything on the offensive side. Quade Green, I mentioned, is really the only guy who can create offense, and this offense hasn't been exciting at all. It's been very, very flat. They'll pass the ball around. No one's getting open. And more often than not, someone's going to try and drive to the hoop. They'll either put up a bad shot, maybe they get a good shot and it goes in, or they'll kick it out to a three-pointer, but they haven't been hitting their threes. This offense is shooting 25% from 3. That's not a winning percentage nowadays with teams shooting a ton of threes, just offense powerhouses. The Huskies clearly haven't done that so far. They don't really have a single guy who can spot up and you can trust him to make a shot if you pass him the ball. So other teams aren't afraid of the Huskies shooting, and that allows them to be condensed in the paint, making it really hard for Quade Green to drive to the bucket, which is kind of his playing style. He wants to dribble in and get those layups, get those kickouts, and get those easier shots. Looking at Rayquan Battle, second year here at UW, everyone talked about him as being that spot-up shooter, a sharp shooter, you could say. Yet through now 1 season and a few games this year, that hasn't shown. Last year, he went 22 from 83 from 3, so about 27%. This season, he's 7 for 31, so 23% from 3. Those are not numbers you want to see from a guy who's supposedly one of your better three-point shooters. So overall, this Husky offense is going to need to figure it out and figure out quickly if they want to start winning games. Soren talked about the team not feeling cohesive,